This video is going to introduce the king. The king is this piece here. Both players start with one and only one throughout the game that begins on this square for white or this square for black. The king is the most important piece in chess because if you lose your king, you lose the game. This video I'm not going to talk about check or checkmates, but I'm just going to stick to the basic rules of how to move the king. So the king can move in any direction it chooses, but only one square at a time. And for the time being, we'll say that there are no exceptions to this rule. So the king can only ever move one square, but in any direction it chooses. So in this case, this white king has 3 options of squares to move, while the black king has 5 around the king here. In order to take a piece, the king takes in the same way that it moves. So in other words, one square away from it in any direction. In this case, the white king can take the rook by moving to one square over to the square that the rook is on to take the rook. In this case, white's king, again, has these 3 options of squares to move to. In order to take one of the piece, it just simply needs to move to the square that the piece is on. One thing about the king is you cannot move to a square that is covered by another piece. So you cannot put your king in danger, or you cannot put your king on a square where another piece can take you. In this case, this square that the knight is on is protected by the bishop, and if you don't understand why that is, you should refer to the video about how bishops move. This means the king is not allowed to take the knight because the bishop would attack the king. So in this case, the king only has 2 squares, 2 options to move to, and if it wants to take the bishop, it can do so by moving to the square the bishop is on. In this case, the question is, how can white take all the pieces in 3 moves? Starting with the king here, you just look for the piece that is only 1 square away from the king. So the only piece the white king can take right now is the knight. Then on the next move, it can take the next knight. And then on the last move, it can take the bishop.